is the part that it takes a while for the YouTube to start.
Yeah.
Here we go.
Thank you. Let's call to order the Town of Mendon Planning Board meeting for Wednesday, December 21st, 2022. The first order of business that we have is to approve the minutes of our last meeting. And everyone had an opportunity to look over our minutes.
Yeah.
Anybody see anything in the minutes that they would like to talk about, anything that needs to be amended? I did see something, so that's why I'm going to, if no one else has anything they want to add, I'll add what I noticed. I noticed that in the minutes, it says, Mr. Stott said septic system was approved when it was put in. Mr. Krowski asked if it was inspected, and Mr. Stott said someone from the town came and did it, and it was Mr. Gates. But Corey was not our code enforcement officer at that time when the septic system was installed, and even if he was, which he wasn't, he wouldn't have had any authority over the jurisdiction over the septic system. That would have had to come from Monroe County Health, not the town of Mendon.
I wonder if Tom Parise looked at it.
Regardless, though, he might have looked at it, but he didn't approve it.
Yeah.
He couldn't have, it just
No,
wasn't
it's
in
not
his
just-
jurisdiction to approve it, so. I don't know how you guys feel about amending the minutes to reflect that. You think it should be, everyone in favor of that? Okay, everyone in favor, aye?
Aye.
Aye, okay,
So add a
Alright.
clerk's note.
but,
Right, you're adding a clerk's note.
yes,
Yes, it'll be an amendment, so it'll be, yes, I just need a first and a second.
oh, I was gonna approve the minutes,
Okay, do we need to do it for the amendment or no?
You can do it as amended if you want.
Okay.
okay, so
Alright.
would someone like to make a motion, that the minutes be approved as amended? Earl, and, okay, all in favor? Aye. Okay, any opposed? No, any abstain? No, okay, so that first order of business is complete. And we will move on to Mr. Cowley and his informal discussion about some subdivision things he wants to.
Sure, good evening.
Good evening. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you as well.
So why don't, this is informal, so maybe you can start talking about what it is you'd like to do with your property and your subdivision. Our town engineer is here, he can pipe in and answer any questions that any of us might have, you included, and
Sure.
we'll just kind of go from there and see where we all land.
Sure.
Okay,
So I have two parcels on Pittsburgh Mendon Center Road. The first northern half is about 10-11 acres of dry land, and then there's 20 acres of wetland in the second parcel below that. So what I'd like to do is, that's an RA5 district. So I think technically you could do something with 6 lots. We have to go through some Article 278, maybe something like that. But what I think would make more sense, and I don't know if this was submitted or not to you, but to kind of go lengthwise, put two lots coming off Pittsburgh Mendon Center Road, and then the other 3 lots, so 5 total, just coming straight off the top down to the end.
so when I'm looking at, this is what I have in front of me.
Okay.
So where is Mendon Center and which one is Topsfield? Like, is
Mendon-
this Mendon Center
Yep.
here?
Yep.
And this is Topsfield.
Now Topspin's to the north.
Oh, up here.
Excuse me, Chairman, if we have this map, as part of the package, it shows the lots a little bit better.
Okay, let me see if I've got that.
It's easier to see the configuration.
don't know that I have, I don't know that I have that either.
Okay.
I give them some.
Sure.
I have this. Yeah, if you want to, I don't have this. Share with others, I have one. I agree with that. Oh, you did, okay, okay. Thank you.
so much.
No problem.
You.
So the one that I have shows 6 lots and this one has 5.
That's right,
Correct?
yeah.
Okay,
So the engineer couldn't make it tonight, and I did that on Google Earth tonight. That's why it doesn't look as good, but
yeah, that's fine.
just drop it
Okay.
down to 5.
Okay, so continue, I'm sorry.
So I mean, that was basically it. I was supposed to be just like a, I guess his date tonight, but he didn't come, so I'm not sure exactly what I'm supposed to be presenting, and I thought it was, I didn't know if you guys had questions or if there was a way to move forward.
Okay, well, let's see, what size are each one of these lots, do you know?
Those are supposed to be 6 acres.
So they're over 5, 6 acre lots. And, Mike, did you have anything you wanted to add to this discussion?
Based on the information that was sent to me, as this board may or may not know, the lower portion, the southern portion, pretty much half of the lot is encumbered with the New York State DEC wetlands. And associated with that is a 100-foot buffer. I'm not exactly sure where they got this information. Perhaps from a DEC mapping app that is online. And those are good for general references, but they're not 100% accurate. So what I would recommend moving forward is that you have this delineated by an environmental person that's qualified to do so. Sometimes you may gain more land, and sometimes you may lose a little bit more. But I think this board wants to make sure that the exact location of that wetland is where it exactly is, rather than just going through the mapping. The mapping that's online is just rough estimate of where it is. The only other thing, the question, I know there's a concrete block building down there on Pittsburgh Mendon Road, on the lower right, or
Yep.
lower left. Is that staying? Do you know what that was used for in the past? I know it looks like just a block concrete storage building of sorts. Do you
Yeah, it was
know,
a
Josh?
drying building back when they used to grow potatoes and celery and stuff there, but I think right now I just use it for storage.
Okay,
The roof's good on it and it seems structurally fine, so
Okay.
I'm gonna use it.
yeah,
Yeah.
you just have to make sure with the building inspector and code that that's okay, which is- it probably should be,
Yeah,
but we want to make sure that that's acceptable. The other, I just looked at this map that you shared. That one lot with the little, I call it the bottleneck there, is that there a reason why you kind of,
so in RA5, we have to have 100 feet of frontage on the road and then 300 feet on the lot line, so where I think the driveway meets the house.
okay,
So in order, that's Topspin Road, there's like 800 feet of frontage roughly. So in order to meet that, we have to just have something come back a little bit off the road and to get that 300-foot mark.
okay. So I think, is it 300 foot at the lot at the house?
I think so, yeah.
Okay. Because it looks a little odd, but if that's why you knocked it down.
And maybe Anthony might be able to do something prettier than that.
Sure,
Yeah, I don't know.
no, that's fine.
Is Topston Drive a dedicated road? Or is that private?
What is that? I don't, what does that mean? What do you mean by that?
I think it's dedicated, Earl. I've been by there a bunch. I'm not gonna 100% say, but I was on Google Earth today, driving up and down, I didn't see the yellow private drive. So,
There's a cul-de-sac back there with 5 or 6 houses. I don't know if that means anything.
Okay, anybody else have anything that they would like to add? To the discussion? I know you're probably, are you wondering what your next steps will be? Like, so you're here because you requested to come for an informal meeting. And so we're kind of here to answer your questions. And we don't really have a lot of questions.
Yeah.
So, you know, I don't want to make you feel like you didn't get your money's worth while you were here.
I'd like to break it up into lots. I guess Corey made some distinction between a buildable lot and then a lot that you could just sell that wasn't necessarily buildable, that didn't require as many things. I'm not sure what that is. I don't know if that's one question I'd have is there a distinction, you know, between that and do I have to do this delineated wetland thing in order to get a sellable lot versus a buildable lot?
I'm not sure what your question is, but when you subdivide, the lot has to conform to all of the town standards, all of the zoning, setbacks, road frontage, lot widths, etc.
Okay.
And that would be, you know, an approved lot. And then when each lot is sold and once somebody wants to come in and get a house approved, you have to come back in and get what they call site plan approval, which shows where the driveway is, the house, the septic system, and all of that. But I think for the sake of getting approval, that we would want to see that delineated wetland on here. I do believe that you would probably have enough room to the north, but I think it would be prudent to have that delineated. And also probably, I'm assuming when these do get approved, there would be some condition of approval. If the owners of those properties could not go in and build garages or sheds or clear the land or anything like that.
Sure. Yep.
And it may come under some type of conservation easement, but I know I'm getting ahead of myself a little bit. But I did want to give you as
Right.
much information as we can while you're here.
You're not going to approve a lot that somebody could not build on.
Correct,
Okay,
correct, yes.
Okay.
That's right.
got
That's
it.
right.
Okay,
So in other words, an approved lot and a buildable, and then
one step, two step, kind of, yeah,
Yeah.
okay, got it.
Yep.
And by the way, I did this not to get a bunch of questions answered. This on the website, this is what it says I have to do is like the first step.
Have you walked the property, all of the property in the summertime?
I have not walked through the back of that wetland, but I've walked a lot of it.
That land is actually muckland,
Yeah,
all muck back there.
yeah. Yep. My father-in-law hunts it and he's got stuck back there a few times.
And he's still back there.
It used to, I mean, it used to be farmed. There's channels back there and willows and everything.
So I think a drawing that is as detailed as you can get it with the wetlands depicted and any e-ponds depicted and really all the information we can get on it so that we can properly scrutinize it and see what questions we're going to have.
that's a great point. This map that was forwarded, the one that I have. Anthony Venenzia, his surveyor, did show E-pods on here. So that is something that's an environmental protection overlay district.
Yep.
And there may be some restrictions on areas where you cannot develop on those lots. So it's important that those are also delineated on the map that's submitted.
Okay.
So just want to make sure that when you do the lot layouts, that you're not encumbered and have room for your home site.
Okay.
I mean, in the big scheme of things, I really don't see a problem with the development of this, but we do want to make sure we're covering ourselves for all the requirements that the town has.
Sure.
you have anything else, Mr. Young?
No, I think, just so we fully understand what they're being made of the wetlands, you know, you want to make sure there's enough space.
Yep.
Outside of the wetland buffer to do what it is that you're gonna propose to do here, presumably build houses.
Right.
That's why, you know, we're focusing on that. We don't want you to come in here and find out, you know, the wetland's a lot bigger than we thought, and so we can't do what we're thinking about doing.
Right.
So it's better to check that out now. It might inform how you cut this up.
Right.
Or where you know, where you place, where you, design the placement of the house, of the homes and things like that. And then, of course, the zoning requirements, you know, 1 lot per 5 acres, looks like you'd be good there. And then there's some setback and other requirements that would need to be, maintained if houses were proposed on these lots.
So are you going to be, is your plan to just sell each individual lot and someone else come in and submit their site plan for it? Or were you going to develop the 6 lots and then sell them?
Right now, it would be the former, just to
Okay.
have somebody else sell the lots and have somebody else. do it.
Right,
I might keep one of them. The one at the barn, I might keep that.
right. So this is basically just a subdivision that you're gonna be seeking approval for.
Yeah,
All right. So Don, his next steps would be, if he wants to move forward with this, would he present an actual site plan to the board?
Subdivision.
A subdivision, yeah, subdivision, I'm sorry. I
Yeah.
misspoke.
Nope, close. Yeah, you know, you follow the process in the code, the next step, from where you were, which I believe offhand would be for preliminary subdivision application. But it sounds like you might have a little homework to do with the wetland delineation before you jump there. So I think if you were there, you would say the same thing right now, yeah.
Because I'm not familiar with this, I'm assuming that there's a tennis club back there, is that what I'm seeing? I've never been back there, so.
Yeah,
I look at this aerial and see what appears to be.
yes,
Didn't know
Manhattan tennis. Appropriately named,
that, I certainly,
right.
Top Spin Road.
of course, got it now, thanks.
Sounds like you were kind of perusing our town code a little bit before you got here. So you're
Yeah.
familiar. Chapter 226 is where it discusses the subdivision of the land and the requirements. So you could kind of familiarize yourself with that. I'm sure your engineer would also.
Okay,
Just from quickly looking at it, it looks like it falls within 3 of our EPOD districts, which you can also find those maps on our town website. But that might be something that happens after the,
sure.
something to bring up later on, I guess.
Any other input? Does anybody have anything that they'd like to add to this discussion? Do you have any other questions? Not right now?
Think so. Was your comment timing wise when I should do that delineation with the wetlands? Is that what you were?
No.
No,
I just
okay.
kind of, we're sure that it was muck back there and 100 foot from that muck make and quite a ways up on those lots.
Got it.
Just to make your life easier, it looks like from looking at it quickly, it falls within EPOD 1, which is the wetlands.
Yep.
EPOD 5, there's a historic property, I think that affects the property to the north. And then EPOD 9, which is ponding of soils.
Okay. Thanks.
Okay, do you have a time frame
Um,
when you're looking to start your process?
as soon, maybe 3 months, 2 to 3 months, maybe. something like that.
So you'll come back to us with your site plan and your wetland delineation
Yeah.
and all of that, and we'll move forward.
Okay.
That's excellent. Thank you. Well, again, it was nice meeting you.
Yeah, nice meeting you as well. Thank you.
Josh, if you want, you can have, Anthony has any questions? Yeah, you're very welcome.
Okay, the next order of business is the Howell special use permit. This is a public hearing, which we left open from the last time that you were here. And so here we are back again. It's nice to see you. Everything, oh, I'm sorry.
It was a standard one. I'm refusing for this.
That's okay, fine. Yes, thank you. Everything that you had submitted before was very appropriate and addressed many of the concerns and the questions that we had. I think one of our big hangups, if I recall in the minutes, was the number of dogs that were actually going to be on the property.
Right.
So why don't you let us know where you come from the last time you were here, and I think it was back in August. if I'm not mistaken.
My wife and I, we talked it over. Mainly, we just wanted to see the process through, either, approve or deny. And we can do, we'll see what 8 dogs does, and if it's, there's more of a demand, then we'll look for a commercial property, somewhere else if the demand's there. So.
Okay, and so you are agreeable to just having 8 dogs on the property?
yes, ma'am.
That would include your pets.
Yep.
So that's essentially 4 dogs fewer than you did come in looking for.
Right.
What, do you want to add something?
I just want to go on record of saying that I don't believe that his 2 dogs really should count that are in his house. What if he had 2 loud toddlers in there? If his dogs are in his house sleeping, they don't really come play into the dynamic of what he's doing outside. That's just how I feel about it.
I think that, well, it's okay. I mean, in a lot of ways I can see, your point, like really his dogs are over in his house and they're probably not interacting with the other dogs, but that's still an amount of dogs on the property. Maybe these dogs over here start barking, the dogs in the house start barking. Maybe they're outside in their fenced area and then they see something they don't like and then they get some other dogs going. It just, I think that the 8 dogs is probably reasonable for where he's located. He has neighbors, he's close to the road. Maybe we would look differently if he was on, a more of an acreage and out, you know what I mean? And set way back and didn't have a lot of neighbors. But I think with where he's located and the fact that he does have neighbors, that I think 8 dogs is probably sufficient. But I mean, now what does anybody else want to say about
I
that?
wasn't
Because-
present at the last meeting, I think I was ill, so I just need a little catch up. This is dog training, is it like multiple dogs at the same time, they're there for a couple hours, or what?
It's
what would be
a,
the program?
it's a combination of all that.
Okay.
So, but I'd like to get approval to be able to board dogs, because some of the dogs will be boarding trained dogs,
Okay,
where
right.
somebody will drop their dog off and they'll stay with me for 2 weeks.
Okay.
Train their dog.
Okay,
And the idea is like, if I don't have dogs that are boarding and training, that I can use those kennels for people who are just gonna go out of town, right? Yeah, that way, if the training is low and the boarding's high, there's still a little bit of income coming in from multiple angles, as opposed to just, one, just training, right? So that's kind of the thought process behind it, right? Trying to get approval for housing dogs overnight.
and like training is like obedience training? or
Obedience
hunting
training.
Or everything?
Just anything, like, I'm trained in odor detection. So people want their dogs to be able to sniff drugs, bombs, bed bugs, whatever, and then there's just people that want their dog to
Sit,
stay, all that good stuff. So it's whatever, they want. I don't really train on bite work, so I don't do that. Just I'm not comfortable doing it.
Mhm.
But other than that, that's, anything people want the dog train on, I'll train on.
In the dog training, the people will bring their dogs to you for a specified amount of time. And then you will train them and then the dogs will go home and new dogs will come in, or will they be bringing the dogs like daily or weekly or?
I mean, that's kind of, so it's really, there's board and train, right? And then, would I ever offer a class for people to come? Yeah, like, hey, you want to, come for an hour to touch your dog up? Like I send their dog home, I train it for 2 weeks or whatnot. And then, if you don't keep keep up on the training, then they might revert back to the bad behaviors. So ideally, yeah, having, small groups, 4 or 5 people at max, and coming out and training or
Come in for a tune-up,
coming in for what?
a tune-up.
Yeah, exactly. So,
Do you use the remote train? Just out of curiosity.
no, I do, if people want it. Some people are against it. So, I look at all of it as a tool. And whatever the owner is comfortable with, I'm more than happy to train their dog on any of that stuff. I think, they're all good tools as long as they're used appropriately and you're not hurting your dog, so.
Does anybody else have anything that they would like to add to this? Don, anything?
No, I think, we have a proposed resolution, conditions on there. There's one on there that may or may not make sense for you to fill in. It's no more than X dogs may be boarded overnight. I don't know if there needs to be an additional limitation on that, or if we just want to say no more than 8 dogs on the property, we don't need to deal with who's there overnight.
I think that that's appropriate. What does anybody else think? The 8 dogs regardless,
Okay.
just at any given time, there shouldn't be more than 8 dogs on the property.
So you'll be moving this then with 1, 2, 3, 4, 8 conditions instead of that one would have made it 9 altogether.
Okay.
Is this open to the public? Do any neighbors have issues?
I,
with the
you know
noise?
what, thank you. I should ask, this is a public hearing, so.
So I spoke with all my neighbors so far, like, well, the neighbors that are across, I'm actually training the Belleville's dogs. They have 2 dogs that I'm training now, and then the Feelys next door. They have no issues, and my in-laws are my other neighbor. So, but no, no one's come up to me and said, hey, it's not a really good idea. So everyone I've talked to seems to be on board because they want to be able to keep their dogs somewhere in like about 2 hours.
And it was a great point though, because it is a public hearing and I should ask if any of the public would like to comment on this application before we possibly.
One other highlighted thing is whether the training of the dog should be. I don't know if the owner has an opinion on this or the board. Right now, there's a question as to whether it should be inside the barn or do we not really need to limit that?
Where is most of your training going to be taking place?
I mean, it'd be ideal to be outside,
Mhm.
because a lot of people, when you walk your dog in the woods, there's distractions, right? So, the barn would be the start off place. I can limit the distractions, but it's the squirrels and
Right,
the deer that jump out that, drag their 90-year-old grandma around, the park.
Okay, so we can strike that out of there. So you're using the barn structure in a pre-existing fenced-in area as well?
Right.
And is any areas beyond that, like just a general?
No, so I probably will, so as of right now, I haven't done really any improvement to the barn or the space behind it, because I didn't want to put money into it, it wasn't improved. But, there'll be an indoor run with an outdoor run behind the barn, that'll be 11 foot. It's the standard kennel that you buy at Tractor Supply. And that'll be extended past, the back of the yard. And then there'd be I would put an additional fence just straight back behind the barn, just as a group play area, for those dogs that are there.
and these dogs will always be fenced in.
They'll all be fenced in, or they'll be on a leash, yes.
Right.
Not walking them around the yard. or
Right.
the road, yeah. Fenced in on a leash, yeah.
Just so you understand it, one of the things we have to be careful about is precedent. Somebody comes along and wants to do something similar. You've got 10 dogs, they want 10 dogs. It's not exactly the same situation, but now we get into this battle.
I'm a dog lover, so I have no problems with it, but that's not up to, if everybody could have 10 dogs, that'd be great. But,
Well,
and I
it's
understand what
up
you're
to us.
saying, yes.
So the use will involve the barn pre-existing fence in the area and the yard, is that right? Okay. So make sure our resolution is accurate and agreeable to the board. And then is this accurate that the dogs would primarily be kept inside the barn, which is to be insulated?
Yes,
But they would be trained at times, but they would also be trained outside, right? So we'll add that.
And you're insulating / soundproofing.
the barn, yes. And also be heated and cooled as well, so.
Okay, I've made those updates to the proposed draft. So there's now 8 conditions, and some of those facts have been slightly revised based on our conversation.
Okay, and, so let's see, we said, no more than 8 dogs shall be kept at the property in total at any one time, inclusive of dogs owned by the owner, resident dogs being boarded and dogs being trained. No business signage shall be present on the property. Dog waste shall be removed on a regular basis. We removed the no more dogs of the overnight, right? So that's gone. Dogs must be securely contained, whether by keeping indoors or secure fencing outdoors, leash or otherwise. Dogs which are outside, even if within a fenced yard, may not be left unsupervised. These are all the conditions of your approval. The owner must provide a certificate of liability insurance to the town, and proof of the same must be provided yearly to the town. Hours of operation shall be limited from 7 a.m. until 7 p.m. Such that customers shall not be present on the property outside of those hours, and training shall not occur at the property outside of those hours. Okay. The home occupation may not result in a noise nuisance, including that it shall be operated in accordance with chapter 184 of the Newton Town Code relative to noise. Should the property owner be subject of a guilty verdict for an offense of the noise chapter, that shall be prima facie.
Close enough.
Yeah, well, you put fancy words in there. Proof of violation of this condition. So, if you are in agreement to those conditions,
Would there be a dollar amount on the liability insurance?
There could be.
so you have liability insurance now. You said you have started to train your dogs.
So I just do it free, I'm not doing it.
Oh, you're doing it. You said not,
It's
not as business.
it's just me doing it just to have fun with other people's dogs.
You're gonna add additional fencing, you said?
Yes.
Okay, so that's the, okay. I'll just note that also, that additional fencing may be added.
Does anyone on the board, would anybody like to have an actual limit of liability on the liability policy?
I don't know what it should be.
I don't,
You could get a rider on his homeowners.
he'd have to talk to his insurance agent on that. I'm not really sure if that would be something, or if you would need a separate liability policy. Off the top of my head, I want to say that $1 million liability policy would probably suit you well for what you're doing with the dogs. If you get sued, obviously you want to make sure that you're well covered, and I don't know that. I just think $1 million might be, but that I guess is entirely up to you. If any of us have a specific amount that we want to put in here as a condition, we could. But otherwise, the liability insurance will be what you decide is good protection. Okay.
You wanna say at least an amount equal to the, say to the amount the house is insured for, so we have a minimum,
True. Yeah.
or we can,
That your home, at least the minimum that matches the homeowners, the current homeowners policy.
Homeowner's value of the property in the house.
Or you can just the liability insurance.
I don't know what he's. Yeah, usually it's you have insurance for the replacement value of your house.
And you have a liability health insurance too, 300,000, 500.
Yeah.
Sometimes you have $1 million umbrella.
So with a minimum. Equal to at least that. Listed in the homeowner's insurance policy.
Your insurance agent can advise you too on that.
Okay.
You come across this before.
So
And
at
can you
least you
just-
get a minimum.
Right, can you just reread that to, Mr. Powell so that, you know,
Yeah.
that's one of the last conditions?
Yeah, the owner must provide a certificate of liability insurance to the town with minimum coverage equal to at least that amount provided in the homeowner's insurance policy. And proof of the same must be provided yearly to the town.
And
Again, I wasn't here last time, the no signage, can we just like talk through that? That was just like a town thing that you can't put a sign there for his business.
Basically, there was just gonna be,
But he can do like an ornamental box or something, or no?
well, I think.
Because there were a couple things that have changed since the last time we talked. You know, the sign, you guys were okay with it last time, just a small sign on the barn. Probably like 2 foot by 2 foot on the barn. I think we talked about, and you guys didn't seem to have an issue with that.
Okay,
And then you also guys didn't also have an issue with me doing like hour, block an hour of training during the day, with you, like 8 dogs boarding. And then you guys seem to be okay with me having like appointments, like where people could come out throughout the day and train. So I'm just curious, you know, why that changed.
you know, I'm not sure I'm understanding.
I mean, it's not a big deal. I'm just curious, like what was the deciding factor on that?
Okay, so I think that we had just talked to you about at the time, if I recall, just limiting the amount of dogs on the property at any one time to 8 dogs.
Right.
Right, and so are you saying that you thought maybe that would be more
Right.
flexible with?
Well, just for the housing of the dogs, you know, because it just says you can't have 8 dogs as a permanent, like, resident of them.
Oh, okay, I know,
You know,
you're
so-
looking like the kennels.
Yeah, so, you know, because that's kind of what the whole special use permit was for, was to do that, but, yeah, I'm just curious, you know, what, you know, if people come over to the appointment or, you know, before I board someone's dog, I want to do like an evaluation on the dog. If I have 8 dogs that I'm boarding and someone wants to board their dog, you know, it's, you know, like, am I allowed to have them there so I can, you know, evaluate their dog before they. I have small
So you-
children, so I want to make
So
sure.
what
they're
you're
not-
saying is that you might have your 8 dogs and then someone might show up for a
Sure,
quick
yeah.
evaluation and
Does
have a
that-
9th dog.
Yeah. or like-
I think you should keep it to 8 dogs at any given time. So then you would just schedule your people around the comings and goings.
Mr. Powell would have a problem if I drove in his driveway with my dog in the vehicle. Unbeknownst to him, now he's in violation.
Well, not necessarily. It's the keeping and care of up to 8 dogs as well as training.
Right.
So,
Right, somebody coming with a dog for appraisal would not be keeping and caring, right?
Well,
Yeah,
if the
I mean-
owner's there with their dog, is that me keeping and carrying their dog? You know, I don't, you know,
Yeah.
like,
the condition says no more than 8 dogs shall be kept at the property full at any one time, including dogs owned by the owner resident, dogs being boarded, dogs being trained.
Is a dog coming in for a 20-minute appointment considered a kept dog?
If it's coming for an appointment, yeah, I mean, I think
Well, I
we're
just-
getting a little granular here, but I
I
mean,
mean,
the
I
rules.
just, I just want to be clear, because obviously I don't want to, like, I live on a corner, so I can't really hide a whole lot from you guys. 'Cause, you know, so it's not like I'm set back in the woods where I can have like 50 people show up. but-
Would you be the only trainer, or like, would you have someone else that could possibly?
Yeah, so, you know, I can have up to 2 people working, I guess, is according to the special use permit. So eventually, yeah, if, you know, it'd be nice to have extra help and just another set of eyes. Right now, it would be my wife and I, so, you know, that'd be like a future thing. It all depends on how much, you know, if I can afford to pay someone. that'd be-
I think the board is talking about 8 dogs present at the property at once, max.
I
So
think that's kind of where we,
is that what? Yeah. So we'll just say present, and that way it will be clear to everybody, you know, to worry about ambiguity there. As far as the signage, right now the condition says no business signage. Is that something the board wants to change? Because you were saying you wanted to,
I mean, it doesn't matter. I just was curious. There was just, the last time we talked, and then when you read off that, there was just, those were the things that were kind of different than what we talked about last time. So
I don't know offhand if signage, what the signage, without doing some research in your code, what signage would even be permitted.
That I don't know either, right off the top of my head.
We could say, if the board were interested, that any signage present must be compliant with code and
Would it require a building permit?
I don't know offhand without doing the research, but what I'm saying is if we say it has to be compliant with code, the code requires a building permit.
Okay,
Requires a building permit, but you could say, if you wanted to limit it to the sign he described, you could say, and it can only be, maybe no larger than whatever, whatever we're talking about here. Or we can just leave it. You can just say no signage, you can say the only sign is this one, or you could be silent. But if you're agreeable to the 2x2 sign you mentioned on the barn, is that what you said?
Yep.
What signage meets town code?
Yeah, I mean, I think no signage is a good. personal
Okay.
preference, but-
I think it should meet the code too.
Yeah.
I don't think we should be excluding him from any of that. So any signage that you have will just have to do town code.
Okay, so we'll just change that to any signage present shall be compliant with town code, okay?
Okay.
All right,
All right.
I'm splitting hairs here, but so if you put a sign out, maybe that works to your disadvantage. Somebody pulls in the driveway and says, this guy trains dogs. They've got their dog in the car. It's dog number 11. You're busted.
Only if someone's reporting them. We're not gonna have a camera on you every day counting the dogs going in and out. So if your friend comes over with their dog,
And I hear what you're saying, and to avoid this, I don't want to go against the grain, but I feel like it should be 8 dogs boarding. And then there's going to be a flow of dogs now, but the boarding are in a separate place. I'm comparing myself to like Beachside right now. You walk in, the borders are over here, you go upstairs to train, you go out, it's gonna cause problems. So I feel like 8 boarding, and then there's gonna be probably 8 in and out all day. And
I
that's-
don't think that that's what the
I
intent of this discussion was.
I wasn't here.
But I think in past practice, we've limited to 8 dogs also. In your scenario, you're talking, you could have up to 16 dogs on that property. Eight boarding and 8
In a
training.
day, but not all at once. So like 9 to 10 would be Bobo, 10 to 11 would be. Bubba.
Well, that's it, but so is he can't, so I think that the thought here is that no more than 8 dogs on the property at any given time. That he's caring for, training,
Mhm.
for whatever reason they're on his property.
Mhm.
Earl, you look like you're thoughtful. What would you like to
I'm fine.
say? Is there anything you want to add to that? 'Cause you know how I-
His 8 dogs, there's 2 plus 6 at the kennel. And we're not identifying as per dog. Rover 1, 2, 3. So, as long as I have no more than 8 dogs on the property.
Charlie, are you doing?
I'm done.
Okay, are you sure? You have anything else you want
I've
to?
made my,
But you're in agreement to what we've just outlined. I know. So anyway,
we went round and round last time, and it's all about, I think, you keep saying it's all really wording. Well, it is wording. It's, if you look at how it's written because you made that clear last time. Well, we have to go by what's worded. So if the owner is there, am I in possession of the dog, or are they in possession of the dog? Is it? So it's not so much, it's being housed.
I think if you in writing, if an owner comes up to get services from you, it's a dog, it's one of the 8 dogs,
Okay.
right?
I mean, not really, because I'm not in care of that dog, right? I'm not, the owner would still be in possession of their dog. if they're
Yeah,
on my
I don't
property.
think, but that's what the board's intent is here.
I don't.
Are you saying if they came in for a quick 15-minute appointment or something?
Well, like, because people are gonna bring their dogs to be the board and trained, right? And then there's gonna be other people who just, I don't need my dog board and trained, I just want, to come in for an hour and have you work with my dog. So I would have to block off a whole kennel just for that 1 hour appointment. That I couldn't book something, so that's kind of I just want to be really clear on what the right thing is to do, because you say no one's looking, right? Well, what happens when you're not running the board? And I'm like, okay, well, no one cared before, now, I don't know if there's a fine associated with it, or.
Especially, if the
what,
neighbors were
so-
complaining or there's a lot of traffic.
So that's just what I want to be
Things,
clear.
a code enforcement officer will appear from time to time and he will, count the dogs on the property.
Right.
I mean, it's not like no one's gonna be watching, but, I'm just saying that from the board's point of view, I think that, 8 dogs at any given time on that property is it. Now, how you make your schedule for that is entirely up to you. I mean, I don't know, dogs come and go, no more than 8 at any one given time. And if the code enforcement officer were to come and there were more than 8 dogs on the property, you would be in violation of your special use permit.
And you would get a warning.
What if Corey pulls in with his dog?
You know what? How long do you want to stay on this board, Charlie? Well, then he'll have to leave the dog in the road, in the truck, and he'll have to walk over off the property. 8 dogs.
They'll park on the right of way.
Right. Let's not go there either. But 8 dogs on the property. Okay, so
I will say, it is kind of an interesting question, and it's something that we have discussed at length, whether, there's a kennel law in our code that says 8 dogs. And then there's, some additional services being discussed here, so. The board has, at least for kenneling and training the kenneling dog, and the dogs on premises owned by the owner has seemed to want to keep that at a total of 8. And then you have the training, which arguably can be looked at separately, but the question becomes, does the board then want to allow more than 8 dogs, more than 8 boarded dog on the property? I think that's what we're discussing.
I hate to deviate from everybody, but I just don't see as a business how you could manage having 8 kennel and then manage having training. You can't, you have to say you have 7. And then one person, give yourself like a half-hour leeway to make sure that they're not passing, and someone's late, someone's early. Like, it's very chaotic. I'm processing it right
Take your dog to the in-laws.
now.
Well, that's the other thing, we go round and round all day, it's just. This is-
Does it matter if the owner stays with the dog? Like, if you do training that the owner has to?
No.
Well, that's what I was asking, and they said,
I'm asking.
yeah, no, so they were just saying,
I mean-
8 is, whether the owner's there or not, no more than 8 dogs, period, is what, and that's just what I want to have be clear on, because, it talks about housing and care, well, am I in trouble, like, if they're on my property, and they're training their dog with me, like a group training session, I'm just showing them what to do, so I'm not caring for the dogs, but you're saying it doesn't matter if they're, whether I'm training them or the owner's training them.
Well, there's multiple ways to look at it. The way that, one way to look at it is any dog, there's a total max of dogs on the property present at one time. That's very simple, right? Is that 8? Or you can board 8, but you can have X additional dogs, or you can slice it up however you want. Our code talks about kenneling as 8 dogs, max. And again, I think the last application we had was kenneling, and I don't, there was maybe training of the kennel dogs,
Yes,
but there
that
wasn't
was-
like
it was-
additional training beyond that.
it was similar to this application. We helped them to their 8 dogs also.
Yeah, I don't remember if there was additional training of non-kennel dogs, or if it was just the dogs were kenneled and those same dogs were being trained. I don't
I
recall.
don't recall either.
But you could slice it up theoretically. But again, the board feels that there's a,
I would feel more comfortable than. I just can't imagine running a business of constantly thinking about how many dogs are there.
So,
When you have a
so
building
his,
separate from training, they're so separate. I mean, I would go and train my dog with you and be there for an hour and then leave. The next person would come. You still have those 8 dogs over here that are quiet and sleeping and getting walked or whatever. But they're 2 totally different businesses that you can't even.
so he's one person right now, he doesn't have any employees. So he's going to be for a full hour here training 1 dog, and 8 dogs are gonna be just there. He's, and then he's in basically a residential area. He's close to the road, does have neighbors. This is a business that he wants to run in a residential neighborhood. So I'm still thinking 8 dogs is for where he is located, is still an appropriate number of dogs. But I'm not the only person on this board who votes, so,
Is there a way to do a range or like a 8 to no more than 10, so that there's some wiggle room?
I think the range, if you were to do a range, you would say max boarded of 8. With a total maximum dogs on property of whatever, 10 or
Which
whatever. you
solves a
guys-
little bit of the wiggle room to me. And I get the neighborhood, I get that, the public hearing, no one has complained. So
but he's not operating yet either.
that's true.
I mean, we can, I think it's in the board's, right, that we could issue this for a specified period of time, and he can come back. But I don't know that that's, because, okay, or go.
He's like, "Oh,
I know that's what I'm saying, I want someone else to talk besides me. Oh, he does too, thanks, Earl.
So he's got 2 dogs in his house, he's got 6 over here in the kennel. Right. If that'll suffice your business right now. Take that for what it is. Everything's working fine. Come back in 3 months, and say, I want to amend this special use permit. I've had no complaints. Code compliance has come by. Everything seems to be working fine. Can we change this and go from here? At least you got your feet wet, you're moving.
I like that.
I do, you know what,
Take that.
It's open up to you guys, so. I'll
I
take
mean,
what you
whichever
guys-
one makes
yeah.
you more money,
Yeah.
boarding or training.
Your model gets set up in a month, you want to expand. And all of a sudden you want to expand to another location, which you was stated earlier. Time to move on.
That works. I mean,
so are you good with the way it is written now, and then if it's really going really well and you really want to come back in 3 months, 6 months, a year and ask to have your special use permit amended,
Sure.
you can certainly do that.
Yeah, you can consider it. I mean,
Well, I know it's not gonna happen, I mean, not necessarily happen, but I mean, the board, you would present to the board and they would consider again.
Sure, I mean, same fee process, same getting on the thing, or what?
What is the process for an amendment? Do you know off the top of your head?
Well, you have one coming up shortly, so you would just go through the same thing again, it'd be a public hearing, I would send the letters, you would show up, same fee. You'd be, and then, they'd approve or not approve, or barter, whatever it would be,
Okay.
but it'd be the same thing, just.
Okay, so I think at this point, we can probably close the public hearing. Well, there was no one online, right? No one on Zoom or anything. Okay, so we can close the public hearing. And would someone like to make a motion that we approve Mr. Powell's special use permit with the conditions as stated?
So move.
That would be Earl. Would someone like to make a second?
Second.
That would be Charles. And all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Any abstain? No? Okay,
Thank you.
you're good to go. Just hook up with Katrina and she'll let you know what the next steps are.
Okay. Thank you.
So, you are very welcome. Now, we did have an adjustment that we were going to make to our special use permit for Stott and for the Equa Center. Our attorney is going to need to recuse himself from the Equa Center discussion. And we had asked if it was okay with you if we moved the Stotts up. So you were agreeable to that. At the time, Mr. and Mrs. Stott didn't have any representation here. So is this something that is agreeable to you also to be moved to the next person on our agenda, or are you waiting for Hillary to arrive? So it's just the two of you. So you guys are good to, you're okay to go now then, right? Okay. And oh, okay, yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, yeah.
It would be confusing.
Oh, for the conditions.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. All right. Do you mind to leave that?
Sure, you can have that.
Okay. All right. So next. Okay, welcome back. We are coming down to the lawyer here. And I do want to say thank you very much. This is a very nice packet of information that you submitted.
Thank you.
And it was very detailed and really explained a lot of things. Your site plan looks just like what we wanted it to look like. So with that being said, do you have anything that you would like to say before we open a discussion here? It is a public hearing, and is there any public that would like to speak? That's how we started last time, was we had the public, but there was no public, so just us.
Only that we hope, pray, it is the Christmas season, that the board will, we understand the new conditions that you'd like to implement upon approval of a special use permit, but that's what our hope would be for today.
So no other comments that you'd like to make then? So we do have a draft of the special use permit conditions. And there are 7 conditions that we have on. Don, did you want to go through them, or did you want me to go through them?
I
Okay.
gave you my copy, so.
So, oh, I'm sorry. Okay, all right. So, so here are the 7 conditions of approval. The first one would be a prerequisite condition. The issuance of a special use permit is subject to the demonstration by the applicant that the wastewater system and appurtenant parts thereof, including a grease interceptor, are in proper working order, all to the satisfaction of our town engineer. That would be condition 1. Given that an apartment has been permitted as a specially permitted use at the property, as a prerequisite condition, the issuance of a special use permit is subject to the demonstration by the applicant that proper fire separation has been established, all to the satisfaction of the town fire marshal. As a prerequisite condition, the issuance of a special use permit is subject to the demonstration by the applicant that the compliant exhaust hoods have been installed above cooking appliances, all to the satisfaction of the fire marshal. And as an ongoing condition for safety purposes and for purposes of preserving pedestrian and vehicular ingress and egress, and outdoor seating shall remain on the private property and shall not improperly encroach on the public right of way.
Is that part of 3 or is that?
That is number 4. Number 5, within 10 days of closing on number 6, Victor Menden Road, that the owners would present to the town building department the deed and or their closing statement to, so that we're able to update the name on the special use permit so that it's appropriately named. If there's two names, if your if one of your entities is going to actually own the building and another entity is going to operate the pizzeria, we would just ask that both of those be on the special use permit, and that's totally administrative. Just come in, Katrina will just like cross out the one and put the appropriate.
Okay.
If that's, and
Can you
then,
read that one again? I'm sure.
okay, within
Thank you.
10 days of closing on 6 Victor Mendon Road, Mendon, New York, present to the town building department the deed and or closing documents to update the name on the special use permit. Number 6, this special use permit will not be transferable. And number 7, any signage will require a building permit. So, with all those conditions put forward, if you think that these are agreeable to you, we would vote and hopefully have a favorable outcome for you on your special use permit tonight.
Okay.
Does that work for you? Okay, does anybody here have anything that? Oh, close the public hearing. Oh,
You should
Public
ask if
hearing.
anyone wants to speak. Yeah.
I did. I asked first.
And what was that last condition? I just want to write it in for a document.
Any signage will require a building permit. And I think that's just a code too, so that's really not, that's just,
Kind of goes without saying.
it kind of goes without saying, but we were just gonna say it, so. So we close the public hearing. Does anyone on the board have any questions or any other things that they would like to address before we? Okay, go ahead.
Are you aware of what constitutes your fire break between the restaurant and?
Yeah, in fact, one of the contractors on site is also a fireman. So he was talking about 5/8 inch.
Is it 5? You might want to check with Corey. It might be two layers of 5/8 drywall.
Yeah, I'm not, I think the coach says 1, but I.
Okay, well, it doesn't rate. You could check that by just taking a hole saw, popping a hole in, seeing what's there,
Right.
and mud it back in.
Yeah, and in fact, our contractor was willing to do that for Corey. Did we mention that no dogs will be on the property?
No dog. If you have a dog, only 8, and they're not allowed in.
What if there's one in the car? Somebody-
What? Okay, no dogs, and no dogs allowed in the pizzeria either, okay? That's like a health department code violation or something.
Patios are legal now.
Yeah, as long as they're on your private property. Okay, so with all that being said, and no one else has any comments, who would like to make a motion that we approve the Scott special use permit?
And
Nicole, and anybody like to second? Teresa, okay, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? No. And any abstaining? No. Well, congratulations.
Thank you.
So
Thank you
glad
very
that we are here and you guys are on your way.
And your deputy town attorney has been very generous with your time. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
He
Appreciate
is
it.
awesome, isn't he? He's a good guy. We're gonna try to keep him around for a while.
That he's gonna leave now.
And now we've told.
Dog, pizza, and horses. Good night.
Okay, we're just waiting while Don gets his things together and he excuses himself and
Yeah, it's-
Oh, yeah. get your makeup done.
Hi, I just looked at Don and I used to do work for that center on a consulting basis, so I can. Just advise for that.
Okay, there we go. We've got lots of recusals tonight.
You're good.
Yeah, we're good. You're staying, aren't you?
I'm just gonna go do.
No, not you.
Oh, Don.
I don't know.
Okay. So. You can know the owner.
All right.
I mean, you can know people in the town.
Yeah, all right.
Everyone's gonna leave.
Yeah, we're done. Nothing's happening. Oh, I know. I want to do this right, so I don't know. Don, do we need to wait till you are not in the building, or are you able to sit there and just listen and what have you? You're good, okay. So, welcome Equa Center. What's your name?
My name is Catherine Hatch.
Okay, hey Catherine, and,
I'm James Bremso.
okay, so it's James and Catherine, and,
Catherine, Katherine. Last name Hatch, Hatch.
and representing the Equa Center in what capacity are you?
Co-director.
You're a co-director, and how about you, James?
I'm the director of facilities.
Director and Director of Facilities. And so you are here today to propose an amendment to your special use permit. Would you like to tell us a little bit about what you'd like to do?
Well, as you can see from what we submitted, we want to build one new structure and then put an addition on one of the existing barns. I know we explained, yeah, I don't know if you read all the things I submitted.
Yep. I
I don't know if you want to take this with the
Yeah, no,
clients.
well, I think the sort of the overarching kind of goal of this is sort of safety. Safety for people that are on site and being around machinery and equipment that is sort of has nowhere to go, really, as well as safety for our instructors. So, and our staff that work in the barn, they're actually crammed into an office that was a horse stall. And I'm not actually exaggerating. There's 5 people sort of sitting right next to each other, and with the flu and everything going around, you know, it's just really not a safe environment or conducive for work. We also have participants who are wheelchair bound and are unable to use bathrooms. So we're looking to expand the bathroom to make it fully accessible for individuals who come in and provide dignity, you know, changing tables for adults. And, you know, to do that, we need to expand that space as well. So safety, aesthetics, and then just make the facility more efficient. You know, when I guess we came on site 14 years ago and have sort of built this amazing program, but the facilities themselves weren't sort of tailored to the programs that we offer. And we have a lot of equipment that's, I mean,
Oh, yeah.
everywhere. We have kids on site and we have children with autism, children who elope. And so, you know, really the idea is that we want to contain the equipment, clean up the property, and really ensure safety.
And so what, in this accessory building that you're going to build, what exactly are you going to be storing in there?
Well, predominantly,
Equipment or
Just equipment.
yeah, well, it'll be a hay barn.
a hay barn?
The equipment
Okay.
storage.
And that's going to be accessible to basically 2 people. James and his staff.
Okay.
So you have an addition to one building.
Yeah, so the addition to the south barn, which is kind of within the cluster of buildings.
No, that has a bathroom and washer and dryer. Is that going to have its own septic system?
Right now,
there is a bathroom in that barn right now. And that is all connected. There are 2 septic tanks at the main house. And if you're, that house was built in 2 phases. I can't remember how long ago, but around 30 years ago, it was one portion was built and then a second portion was built. So there's 2 large septic tanks there. And there is a sewer line that goes from the barn that we're looking to expand that does actually connect to the first of those septic systems. Now, I did have Zinc Septic out a few weeks ago to look at the situation. And we still have enough capacity to do what we're not really increasing. We want to move the washer and dryer that right now are in the house. So, barn staff have to take everything up to the house, do the laundry for the horses and bring everything back. So we're not actually increasing, what's going into the septic.
Will that go into the same tank as it was in the house,
Yeah, same tank.
all gravity?
Yeah.
We did ask our town engineer, Mr. Simon, to take a look at what you have submitted. And I think he had a few questions or some comments that he'd like to add, so we'll turn over to him now.
Thank you, Chairman. I'm just gonna, if you don't mind, I wanted to make sure I was clear on where the additions are going based on your diagram. It looked like it was coming off of this barn here,
Yep.
right?
The addition.
Yep.
Yeah,
And then
you see that gable,
Yes.
the roof line is
Yes.
facing that way, it's
Yes.
bumping out towards the,
right here,
Mhm.
and then the new
yeah.
hay barn and equipment barn is up
Yep.
here.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna show the board so that you're aware. I know it's not the greatest, but, so there's an existing barn here. And the new addition is coming off the back of that right here.
Big,
Okay,
that when you shrink it down to-
and that's a smaller addition that's under the application. And then the new hay barn and equipment barn is going right here,
'Cause that's what
which
we
I
said.
wasn't clear.
That's what I was.
I wasn't clear where it was going, and this gentleman pointed that out to me this evening. So one question that sometimes comes up is your additional structure in front of your home. But no pun intended, but the horse is already out of the barn with that. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4 buildings plus 5 that are already in front of the structure. And it's up to the board, but in this area here, I don't think it's intrusive to any of the neighbors.
On the setback, is
It's plenty of, yes,
And
that's
approach the
correct.
board.
That's correct, Charlie.
We actually have back to the rest.
Yes, right here.
So this actually shows where the
Yeah,
barn
let me
is
grab
going.
that.
Just to show you where our existing structures are in relation to the barn.
So this is where the proposed barn is going. And it, what is that, 895?
Yeah.
From the road, and then about over 1,100 feet to the water course. So I know it's up to this board if you want to talk any more about that, the location.
I think the location.
And there was also some elevations in the application.
Just had a quick question. It seems like, all your setbacks and the dimensional, there's no issues with anything like that. We do have requirements for height. And I see on one of the drawings, thank you for all the information, that your plate height is 18 feet
18 to the east.
to the eaves, and our height goes to the ridge. I don't see a roof pitch or anything noted on there, but does your main roof cover the 80 feet or is it the 60?
The
foot?
60.
So the lean-to is butting up against the wall, it's not under the main roof?
The lean-to will be lower than the.
Okay, that's
The-
good. So you have 60 feet to work with. Your max height can be 35 feet. So I'm not sure what your roof pitch is, but it's less than.
I don't have that with me, but I do know the roof height is, it will be less than 35.
All right, that's.
So
all.
it will also be set down. I'm talking with the excavation guys, that'll probably be dropped about 5 feet from the driveway height.
It's measured from grade,
Okay,
adjacent grade to the highest point. So,
okay.
But it,
I would say the visible roof line will be, lower than the actual height of the building. Well, from what you can see on the road or from anywhere
oh,
else.
it's measured from the adjacent grade surrounding it, so, but it sounds like you'll be fine. It's probably going to have a metal roof, I'm
Mhm.
thinking, so you should
Yeah.
have no problems with getting a lower slope roof, pitch on
Mhm.
there to meet that 35-foot height. Other than that, I didn't have any.
Did you plan on, putting in any additional parking?
No,
No, and
We're not
you're not
expanding.
expanding,
No, there's
so
no-
you're
there's
just
no
adding,
expansion.
but not
We're doing
expanding,
this, so,
okay. All right, so there's gonna be no additional parking. Were you gonna be adding any signage? With any plans for any, I know this seems like it's just buildings going up, but it's just things we have to just kind of check
No.
off.
No, there's no, I don't see there, because again, we don't actually want anyone going.
Going
to
down
the
there,
maintenance
right,
building. Yeah.
right, and so you did hear that if there was signage,
We
you
would
would
get
get a
it down.
building.
Yep, absolutely.
Is your hay being delivered to that new building directly?
It will be, well, we grow a lot of our own hay.
We have some hay delivered, yes, and that would be delivered up to that.
Right
building.
How are you gonna access to that? I don't see how you're gonna get to that building.
Well, right, there's an existing, on that top corner of the driveway, if you can see on the picture, where the driveway takes that hard 90. On that corner, there's already an access road there. And then on the other side of the building, across the top of the driveway, there'll be an additional access point there. And there'll be approximately a similar size apron on the front of the barn to the actual footprint of the barn. There'll be a pretty big turnaround in front of it.
But primarily, you're gonna be delivering off of hay wagons rather than tractor trailer.
Yeah, no, it wouldn't be tractor trailers. We can't even get tractor trailers up the driveway,
Yeah.
so we can't get deliveries with tractor trailers anyway.
Any additional lighting?
No, I mean, just probably a safety light outside the pedestrian door, but no additional lighting on
No
the barn
additional
itself.
lighting, because any additional lighting would need to be, dark sky, night
Yeah.
compliant, so
Right.
you already know that. We've made several over the years, not me, but you guys have made several changes to
Mhm.
your, special use permit. And this looks pretty consistent with some of the changes that you've made in the past. It doesn't, look like there's going to be any environmental impact, so, that it goes well with the original, assessment on that. Does anyone else have any other questions or any concerns that they, would like? Mike, I did want to just say, are you fine? Your question was answered about the location of the, building. You don't need to see anything then additional.
No, the additions are de minimis relative to any additional stormwater coming off the roofs. So I don't, and they're on what, how many acres?
200.
200 acres,
Yeah.
so that's not an issue. It is a continuation of the existing special use permit. They did reference in their application the hours of operation, which will be consistent
unchanged, yeah.
with what's happening today. And I think one of your ongoing conditions is that any additional modifications to the site would require additional review. And
Right, the
special
condition-
use,
Right, and all the conditions
Yes,
that is set forth remain in effect, nothing changes from that, so any
Yeah.
additional changes you would need to.
one other item that I thought was appropriate, they did fill out the short environmental assessment form. But I think under the type 2 actions, I think it could be argued, and this is under section 617.5. C number 4, that agricultural farm management practices, including construction of construction of new structures, and consistent with the existing farming practices, if you will, do not require seeker further approval. So it does fall, in my opinion, under type 2, if the board agrees with that.
Right, and
It just saves you a step of filling out part 2.
Yep,
of
yep,
the
yep.
seeker.
yeah, so the environmental impact has not changed since the original
Original
application.
application.
So,
I think there was some comments by the county. I did review those. A lot of them, I think, were somewhat standard comments. And I didn't see anything that jumped out at me on those comments. They did reference that water course, but they have noted it's over 1,100 feet from the proposed structure. And there was one reference to the Lehigh Trail. Is that,
That's way on the other side of the property.
okay? And I think all their point was, is that was there access to the trail from your property, or if that's not, I think they were just trying to involve it with their trail. But if it's not something you're interested in, I don't see it as an issue.
okay, any other questions? No, no public, right? So we'll close the public hearing at this time. Would someone like to make a motion that we approve the amendment to the special use permit for? Stop. The only one thing I did want to say is that all of our documentation has Mr. Freelander as a contact. So maybe you can hook up with Katrina and let her know like who the new contacts are and who the right people are. But other than that, I think that would someone like to make a motion that we amend the special use permit?
Yes.
Is that you or all yes? Someone want to make a second? Charlie, all in favor? Okay, any opposed? No, no abstained. We are good. You are good. Yay.
Lauren, no condition.
You know what? We really didn't have anything. There's going to be no additional parking, no added signage, no additional lighting.
Just the fact that any further continued
Right.
development will require an additional. special-
Right, and that's still a condition of the
Yeah,
original, so.
I'll send you the-
Yay.
Oh.
Thank you very much. Okay, our next order of business is our general discussion. Anybody want to generally discuss anything? Katrina, what do we have coming up for our near future?
Funny you should say that.
Oh.
We have Tom's, but I've gotten just today in the mail on letterhead an approval for 2 parking spots for the apartment. So that came in from the DOT,
Excellent.
but we're still going to need something along the lines of the septic, correct?
Mhm.
If they approach the train store about the parking up there,
This won't be pertinent. So they have actually 2 spots that are available on her property, so that's all that's required for the apartment. Anything as far as any businesses that they do below, that'll be something they're gonna have to cross when it comes to it. But for them to come back, you want something about what? Just for me to schedule them.
Oh, you gotta recall.
I know.
So there's the septic,
The DOT, the DEC, and the Department of Health. I think you need
Yeah,
permits
those
from all
three.
of them. So
and the
wait.
and basically the septic. So if she has the 2 parking spots, which are required for the approved by the
DOH.
the Department of Health, the DEC, and
Yeah, so DEC and DOH were waiting on, because we have the DOT.
okay. So
Okay, so they're just pending, I have them tentatively.
So I think DOT
On
was
January.
I think we needed 2 approvals from the DOT. One was for the parking and one was for the septic.
Because the parking was correct, but the septic was the issue to the correct. Okay.
Right.
So at this point, Your January 4th is canceled because we crossed that. January 18th, they're just not, I don't think they're gonna be able to get on it. So right now that is tentatively canceled. I will confirm. If everything comes in tomorrow, I'll put her on.
Okay.
Okay, but Don won't be at that one, so we may want to move it to February.
Okay.
So after we get to the next cutoff for February 1st for any new application is the 28th of December. So you may not have your next 3 meetings. But remember, you moved to town hall starting. in
Yes,
January.
starting in January.
And if there is a fourth, then I'm here.
With, yeah, wait, which one?
January 4th.
January, yep, I have you, but that. Right.
If there's not.
Yeah, you're. That's that, that's all I have.
Does anybody else have anything that they'd like to discuss regarding anything that happened at this meeting, our future meetings, anything? I mean, this is our
I hope
opportunity
I
as a
wasn't
group
being
to
a
like
team
get
up.
together and like talk about these things.
Yeah, I wasn't here for the first.
Just ask. When we make our resolutions at the end and we give them their approvals, there's an approval letter that the town puts out, right?
I'll send it, yeah.
Is it possible for us, are we allowed to be copied in on that so we
Yeah.
can see?
So what I typically do, it goes hard copy in the mail, and then I give one to Corey, but I always scan it in and email to them, so they have it ahead of time. I can, if you all want to be copied in on that.
I think that would be, I think that would be a nice way for us to close our personal files, how we,
Okay, I have no problem doing that. So just so you know, the Aqua Center will just be a letter that says, following conditions of the original special use permit.
I don't think that there's anything.
Are they residing there? I mean, that's.
No, they don't, I
I
don't think, no, they don't live in the house,
No.
if they operate it as a business.
mean, the Petrosax had that house built, and it's like,
Yeah, no, there's no
8,000
one,
square
yeah,
feet.
there's no one living in that.
so the house is 8,000 square feet of empty house.
They utilize a bunch of rooms, that's all they're doing.
They're used. The master bedroom is a conference room. Yeah.
Right, but there's no one actually living in the house.
Oh, no. Mm-mm.
Earl?
No.
We went, like you were gonna say something. All right, so anything else anybody would like to say? Who would like to make the motion that we adjourn this meeting for the holiday? Nicole, seconded by Earl.
All right, Earl.
All in favor? Hello? No opposed? You don't get to want to stay any longer? No, nobody's gonna abstain from that either.
My mom's. I don't want to go home.